My name is Aunt Mary, and before you judge me, sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and let me talk. I'm a Black American woman, born and raised on the South Side, where life don't come easy and love don't come free. I'm not fancy, I'm not rich, but baby, I got stories that can make you laugh, cry, and sit quiet for a long minute. This ain't no fairy tale. This is my life straight up. I'm telling you this now because folks always see the end result, but they never see the grind, the pain, or the prayers that got you there. I grew up in a small house with thin walls and loud arguments. My mama worked 2 jobs, my daddy worked 1 and complained like it was 3. We didn't have much, but we had rules. Respect elders, speak when spoken to, and never bring shame to the family. I learned early how to cook, clean, and keep my mouth shut. But inside I was loud. I had dreams bigger than my block. I wanted love, real love, the kind that sticks around when money's low and sickness knocks. I met my husband, Robert, when I was just 20. Tall, smooth talker, always smelling like aftershave and confidence. Everybody said, Mary, that meant trouble. And I said, nah, he just misunderstood. Lord, ain't that what we always say? He made me laugh, made me feel seen. When he asked me to marry him, I said yes before he even finished the question. We didn't have a big wedding, just family, music, and hope. Back then, hope was enough. Our first apartment was small, but it was ours. We had a couch somebody gave us, a TV that worked when it wanted to, and dreams taped to the fridge. Then came our son Darnell. Holding him for the first time changed me. I wasn't just Mary anymore. I was somebody's mama. I promised that boy I'd protect him from the world, even though I barely knew how to protect myself. 2 years later, our daughter Keisha came along. Strong cry, big eyes, already looking like she knew something. The rest of us didn't. Folks say girls change marriages. They weren't lying. Robert started working late, coming home tired, quiet. I told myself it was stress. Bills don't pay themselves, right? But deep down, my spirit was uneasy. Life moved fast. Kids grew. Responsibilities piled up. I worked as a caregiver during the day and cleaned offices at night. Sleep became optional. Smiling became a skill. Robert and I stopped talking like lovers and started talking like roommates. Then one day we stopped talking at all. Silence can be louder than yelling, and that silence sat heavy in our house. When Darnell turned 13, he started acting out. Bad grades, attitude, hanging with boys I didn't trust. I tried talking to him, grounding him, praying over him while he slept. Keisha, on the other hand, was quiet. Too quiet. She stayed in her room, wrote in her notebook, listened to music that sounded sad even when it was upbeat. I worried about both of them, but in different ways. Then came the night everything cracked. Robert didn't come home. No call, no text. I stayed up till sunrise, pacing, heart racing, mind going crazy. When he finally showed up the next day, he didn't even look sorry. He said he needed space. Space, like we lived in outer space or something. I wanted to scream, but instead I nodded. Sometimes dignity is just choosing not to beg. A week later, he moved out. Just like that. Left his kids, left me with bills, questions, and a house full of memories. I cried in the shower so my kids wouldn't hear me. I smiled at school meetings. I kept going because stopping wasn't an option. People love to say, "You strong." But they don't see the nights you sit on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing, wondering where you went wrong. Money got tight, real tight. I sold my wedding ring to pay rent. I skipped meals so my kids could eat. Darnell noticed. He started working part-time, even though I told him to focus on school. Keisha started cooking dinner without being asked. Kids shouldn't have to grow up fast, but life don't ask permission. One Sunday afternoon, while folding laundry, I got a call from my sister. She said, "Mary, you gotta live for yourself too." I laughed. Live for myself? When? Between shifts? Between worries? But her words stuck. That night, I looked in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Tired eyes, slumped shoulders, but still breathing. Still here. That's when I made a decision. I didn't know how or when, but I knew I wasn't done. My story wasn't over. I wasn't just a broke wife left behind. I was a mother, a woman, a fighter. And if life thought it knocked me out, it had another thing coming. What I didn't know then was that the hardest lessons, the biggest surprises, and the deepest heartbreaks were still waiting. And trust me, baby, what came next changed all of us forever. After Robert left, the house felt different. Same walls, same furniture, but the air was heavy. Like it knew something broke and couldn't be fixed with duct tape. I kept moving because if I stopped, I knew I'd fall apart. Every morning, I woke up before sunrise, whispered a prayer, and told myself, Mary, you got this. Some days I believed it. Some days I was just lying to survive. Darnell started high school that year. And let me tell you, that boy tested every nerve I had. He was angry, and I understood why. His daddy walked out, and in his mind, somebody had to pay for that pain. Sometimes it was me. He talked back, slammed doors, stayed out late. I wanted to yell, but instead, I sat him down and told him the truth. I said, baby, your daddy living ain't got nothing to do with you. He didn't say much, just stared at the floor. Hurt don't always talk loud. Keisha stayed quiet, but I watched her closely. She'd sit at the kitchen table, doing homework, humming soft like she was comforting herself. She asked me one night, Mama, are we going to be okay? I smiled and said yes, even though I wasn't sure how. A mama's promise don't come with instructions, just faith. I picked up extra shifts at the nursing home. Old folks have a way of seeing straight through you. One lady, Miss Elena, held my hand and said, Child, you tired in your bones. I laughed it off, but she was right. Still, those elders taught me something. They'd been through wars, losses, and heartbreak, yet they still smiled. That gave me strength. One evening, after a long shift, I came home to find Darnell sitting on the couch with his head in his hands. My heart dropped. I asked what happened, and he told me he got into a fight at school. Said some boy made jokes about his dad leaving. I wanted to drive up to that school and lose my mind, but I didn't. I hugged my son instead. He stiffened at first, then broke down crying. That was the first time I saw my baby boy let the pain out. That night, I realized something real important. My kids didn't need a perfect mama. They needed a present one. So I started doing small things. Family dinners, even if it was just spaghetti. Friday movie nights with popcorn and old blankets. Sunday talks where everybody could say what they felt without getting judged. The house slowly started breathing again. Then life threw another curveball. Robert called. After months of silence, he just popped up like nothing happened. Said he wanted to see the kids. I felt every emotion hit me at once. Anger, relief, fear. I told him he could come by, but only if he acted right. When he walked through that door, the kids froze. Darnell crossed his arms. Keisha hid behind me. Robert looked older, smaller somehow. He tried to joke, tried to explain, but kids ain't stupid. They feel truth even when it ain't spoken. After he left, Darnell asked me why people promise forever when they don't mean it. I didn't have a clean answer. I just told him people are human, and humans mess up bad sometimes. Money was still a struggle, but I started saving little by little. I signed up for night classes to become a certified nurse assistant. Studying after work was rough, but every page I turned felt like hope. I wanted my kids to see that quitting wasn't in my DNA. Keisha surprised me one day when she told me she wanted to be a writer. Said she liked putting feelings on paper. I told her to chase it, even if the world tried to shut the door. Darnell said he wanted to work with cars, grease, engines, fixing broken things. Funny how kids choose paths that match their hearts. Then came the day I almost gave up. I failed an important exam, sat in my car and cried so hard my chest hurt. I thought, maybe this is it. Maybe this is all I'll ever be. But then my phone buzzed. A text from Keisha. I'm proud of you, Mama. That one line pulled me back from the edge. I retook the exam, passed it, got a better position. More hours, better pay. Not rich, but stable. The kids felt it too. Less stress, more laughter. Healing ain't loud, it's quiet and steady. Robert faded in and out of our lives like bad reception. Sometimes he showed up, sometimes he didn't. I stopped expecting anything from him. Expectations are dangerous when they ain't backed by action. One night, sitting on the porch, watching the sun go down, I realized something big. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living, still scared, still tired, but standing. And I had no idea that the next chapter, the one that tested my heart the most, was already knocking at the door. Because just when I thought the storm was passing, life decided to remind me. It wasn't done teaching me yet. Always tell people this, life don't send you a warning text before it flips your whole world upside down. One minute you breathing easy, next minute you gasping for air. For me, that moment came on a random Tuesday, right when I thought we were finally finding our rhythm. I was at work when the school called. That phone ringing in the middle of a shift will stop your heart every time. They said it was Keisha. She fainted in class. I dropped everything and drove like my foot was on fire. By the time I got there, she was sitting up, looking embarrassed more than hurt. But a mother's gut don't lie. Something was off. Doctor visits became our new routine. Blood tests, waiting rooms, long looks exchanged between nurses. Then one quiet afternoon, the doctor sat us down and started talking slow. Too slow. Keisha had a health condition that wasn't life-ending, but it wasn't nothing either. It meant medication, lifestyle changes, and a lot of monitoring. I nodded like I understood, but inside I was screaming. Keisha tried to be brave. She said, "I'll be okay, Mama." I smiled, but later that night, I cried into my pillow like a child. I kept thinking, why my baby? But life don't answer those questions. Darnell took it hard. He started hovering over his sister like a bodyguard. If anyone teased her, he was ready to swing. I had to pull him aside and tell him strength ain't always about fists. Sometimes it's about patience. He listened, but I could see that fire in his eyes. That boy loved his sister, something fierce. Bills stacked up again. Medical stuff ain't cheap, even with insurance. I picked up overtime, worked weekends, skipped rest. My body started talking back. Back pain, headaches, pure exhaustion. One night, I almost passed out in the kitchen. Darnell caught me before I hit the floor. Seeing fear on your child's face like that will wake you up real fast. That's when I learned another lesson. Being strong don't mean killing yourself slowly. I had to learn balance, even if it wasn't perfect. Robert popped back in during all this, acting concerned, asking questions. I let him help where he could, but I didn't let my guard down. Trust once broken, don't glue back easy. Still, seeing him try with the kids gave me mixed feelings. Hope is dangerous, but bitterness is worse. Keisha started writing more. Journals, poems, little stories about girls who survived storms. Sometimes she'd read them to me. Her words were powerful, way beyond her age. I'd sit there thinking, this pain is shaping her, but it ain't breaking her. Darnell graduated high school and got accepted into a mechanic training program. The day he showed me the letter, I cried like he won the lottery. That boy hugged me and said, "We did it, Mama." Not I. We. That's when I knew I raised him right. Then came the moment I wasn't ready for. Robert asked to talk, just me and him. He admitted his mistakes, said he was scared of responsibility, scared of failing. Funny thing is, running made him fail anyway. I listened, not because I wanted him back, but because closure matters. I forgave him, but forgiveness don't always mean reunion. Sometimes it just means peace. As years passed, the house changed again. Quieter. Kids growing, finding their own lanes. Keisha managed her health like a champ and got into college for creative writing. Darnell started working full-time, grease under his nails, pride in his walk. And me? I finally looked at myself and smiled, not because life was perfect, but because I survived things that should have crushed me. I wasn't just Aunt Mary, the caregiver, the single mama, the tired woman. I was a storyteller, a backbone, a witness to growth. Now, when elders sit with me and swap stories, they nod like they know, because they do. Life humbles everybody sooner or later. But it also teaches you how strong love can be when you refuse to quit. And baby, let me tell you this, if you're still breathing, your story's still writing. Don't rush it, don't compare it. Just live it honest. Because the next part of my life, that's when I finally learned how to live for me. When the kids started building their own lives, the house felt strange again, but this time not heavy, just quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you hear your own thoughts whether you want to or not. For years, my whole world was about surviving for my children. Then one day I realized they didn't need me the same way anymore. And that truth hit me harder than any bill or breakup ever did. I remember sitting at the kitchen table one morning, coffee going cold, asking myself, Mary, who are you when nobody needs you right this second? That question scared me. I had spent so long being strong for everybody, else that I forgot how to be gentle with myself. I started small, morning walks around the block. Nothing fancy, just me, my sneakers, and the sunrise. I'd wave at neighbors, listen to birds, feel my lungs fill up. It felt good, like I was slowly coming back to life. One older man down the street used to say, "Morning, Queen," every time he saw me. I'd laugh, but deep down, I liked that reminder. At work, folks noticed I wasn't rushing like before. I still worked hard, but I wasn't running myself into the ground. One of my co-workers asked me why I was smiling so much. I told her, because I'm still standing. She nodded like she understood exactly what I meant. Keisha called me almost every night from college. She'd talk about her classes, her professors, the way her words were finally being taken seriously. One night she said, "Mama, you're my first hero." I had to put the phone down and cry. Not sad tears, thankful ones. Those hit different. Darnell started fixing up an old car he bought cheap. Every weekend he'd swing by, hands dirty, eyes bright, talking about engines like they were living things. He'd say, "You taught me how to keep going." Even when stuff's broken. Funny how kids learn. Lessons you never planned to teach. Then something unexpected happened. I got invited to speak at a small community center. Just a little talk for other women, other mothers. I almost said no. Public speaking wasn't my thing, but something told me to go. When I stood in front of those women and told my story, no filter, no fancy words, I saw heads nodding, eyes watering. That's when I realized my pain wasn't wasted. It had purpose. I started sharing more. Little talks turned into regular meetups. Women of all ages showed up. Young moms, grandmas, women just trying to figure life out. We laughed, we cried, we healed a little together. They started calling me Aunt Mary, even if we weren't related. And honestly, that name felt earned. Robert drifted further into the background, not out of hate, just distance. We were two people who shared history, not a future. And that was okay. Peace feels better than drama anyway. One evening, sitting alone on the porch, I realized something big. I wasn't waiting for life anymore. I was living it. I had scars, yeah, but I also had wisdom. I had stories, and I had time. So now I tell my story out loud. Not for pity, not for praise, but for anyone who thinks they're too tired, too late, or too broken. Baby, if I made it through what I made it through, trust me, you got more strength than you think. And the funny thing is, just when I thought this chapter was about slowing down, life had one more surprise lined up for me. Because the next chapter, that's when love knocked again, real soft this time. I wasn't looking for love. Let me say that loud and clear. When you've been through what I've been through, you stop chasing fairy tales. You start chasing peace. So when love showed up again, it caught me off guard. Real smooth, real quiet. It started at the community center. A new volunteer came in one afternoon, helping set up chairs. His name was James. Salt and pepper beard, soft voice, kind eyes. The kind that listen more than they talk. He wasn't flashy, didn't try to impress nobody. Just steady. And at my age, steady means a lot. We talked here and there. Nothing deep at first. Weather, work, life. He told me he was widowed. Raised his kids already, just giving back now. No pressure, no rush. That felt safe. One day, he brought extra coffee and said, "Thought you might need this." Funny how small things can warm your heart. Weeks passed. Conversations got longer. Laughter came easier. I caught myself smiling for no reason, and that scared me a little. I wasn't trying to open a door I just finished closing. But life don't ask permission. One afternoon, James walked me to my car and said, "Mary, you ever think about doing something just for fun?" I laughed. Fun sounded like a foreign word, but I said yes when he asked me to dinner. Not a date, just dinner. That's what I told myself anyway. Dinner was simple. No candles, no drama, just good food and honest talk. He didn't try to fix me or save me. He just listened. When I told him pieces of my story, he didn't flinch. He said, "You're strong, but I see your softness too." That line right there. It hit home. I told my kids. Keisha smiled big and said, "About time, Mama." Darnell just nodded and said, "As long as he treats you right." That's all I needed. We took things slow. Walks, talks, quiet moments. He respected my boundaries, my past, my pace. Love at this age ain't loud. It's patient. It don't rush. It waits until you're ready. I realized something important. Love ain't just romance. Sometimes it's companionship. Sometimes it's someone sitting next to you in silence and that being enough. One evening, James said, "I don't need you to be anything but yourself." And for the first time in a long time, that felt like home. I don't know what the future holds. None of us do. But I know this. Life ain't over till it's over. You can lose, fall, break, and still find joy again. So if you're listening to Aunt Mary right now, hear this. Your past don't disqualify you from a beautiful future. It prepares you. And my story, it ain't finished yet. It's just getting good. Life has a funny way of slowing you down right when you think you finally learned how to breathe. James and I settled into something calm and real. No labels at first, just two grown folks enjoying each other's company. Coffee in the mornings, phone calls in the evenings, and long talks about everything and nothing. At my age, that felt like winning the lottery. But peace don't mean life stops testing you. One morning, James didn't show up to the community center. That wasn't like him. No call, no text. I told myself not to worry, but my chest felt tight all day. That evening, my phone rang. It was him, voice low. He told me he'd been diagnosed with a heart condition. Not the end of the world, but serious enough to change how he lived. Old fear tried to rise up in me. I'd already watched love walk away once. I wasn't sure I had the strength to watch someone get sick. I sat with that feeling for a long time before I spoke. Then I told him the truth. I said, "I ain't scared of hard things. I'm scared of running from something good." We learned together. Doctor visits, healthier meals, slower days. Supporting someone don't mean losing yourself. It means walking side by side. And he did the same for me. When my body got tired, he reminded me to rest. When my mind started spinning, he brought me back down. Keisha graduated college. Watching her walk across that stage felt unreal. That little girl who once asked if we'd be okay, she was shining now. Darnell started his own small repair shop. First time I saw his name on that sign, I cried like a fool. Those moments made every struggle worth it. I kept speaking at the center. My story reached farther than I expected. People told me it helped them keep going. That humbled me. I never planned to be a voice, just a survivor. But sometimes survivors become guides. James and I never rushed marriage talk. We both knew love don't need a certificate to be real. We chose each other every day, and that choice mattered more than anything else. One quiet night sitting on the porch, James looked at me and said, "Mary, your life touched a lot of people." I smiled and said, "It touched me too. I don't know how many chapters I got left, but I know this. My life wasn't wasted. Not the pain, not the waiting, not the mistakes. It all built me into the woman telling you this story right now. So if you still listening, let Aunt Mary leave you with this. No matter how many times life knocks you down, as long as you get back up with love in your heart, you already won. And baby, that's the real story. As time kept moving, I learned something real important. Life don't always get louder when it gets better. Sometimes it gets softer, quieter, more meaningful. James and I settled into that kind of life. No rushing, no proving nothing to nobody. Just showing up day after day. My morning started slow. I'd wake up early, make my coffee just how I like it, and sit by the window watching the world wake up. Sunlight hitting the walls, birds making noise like they owned the place. I used to rush through mornings, always late for something, always worried. Now I let time breathe. That alone felt like a blessing. James' health had its ups and downs. Some days he felt strong, some days he needed rest. I learned to listen, to him and to myself. Love at this stage ain't about fireworks. It's about care. It's about remembering meds, cooking meals that heal, and holding hands without saying a word. Darnell's shop started getting attention. Folks trusted him because he was honest. He didn't overcharge, didn't talk down to nobody. One day he told me, "Mama, people trust me because you taught me." Right. That hit my heart heavy, in a good way. You don't always see your impact until it comes back around. Keisha started getting her writing published online. Little essays at first, then bigger pieces. One night she sent me a link and said, "You're in this story." I read it slow, tears rolling down my face. She didn't write me as perfect. She wrote me as real, and that meant everything. The community center became my second home. New faces showed up every week. Some broken, some tired, some just needing someone to listen. I never pretended to have all the answers. I just told them what worked for me. Honesty, patience, and not giving up on yourself. One evening, a young woman asked me, "Aunt Mary, how did you survive all that and still stay soft?" I thought about that for a long minute. Then I told her, because staying soft was my way of fighting back. Bitterness hardens you. Love keeps you human. James and I talked about the future, not in big scary ways, just gently, where we wanted to be, how we wanted to feel. We agreed on one thing for sure. Peace mattered more than anything else. Now, as I sit here telling you my story, I don't feel regret. I feel gratitude for the pain that taught me, for the people who stayed, for the strength I didn't know I had. If you listening and feeling tired, hear Aunt Mary real clear. Rest don't mean quitting. Starting over don't mean failing. And love can find you at any age, any stage, any mess. My story keeps going, just like yours. And as long as we breathing, there's always another chapter waiting. The older I got, the more I understood this truth. Life don't reward speed. It rewards staying power. You don't get extra points for rushing through pain. You get wisdom for surviving it. That's something nobody tells you when you're young. James and I moved even slower as the years passed. Some folks thought slow meant boring. But baby, boring is underrated. Boring means peace. It means no drama calling your phone at midnight. It means knowing who you're coming home to and knowing they ain't going nowhere. We never moved in together. Some people didn't understand that either. But at this stage, love ain't about sharing closets. It's about sharing respect. He had his place, I had mine, and we met in the middle. That middle was full of laughter, honesty, and quiet support. My body started reminding me I wasn't 20 anymore. Knees aching, back talking trash every morning. I learned to listen instead of push. I stretched, I rested. I stopped apologizing for being tired. Aging taught me that rest is not weakness, it's maintenance. The community center asked me to mentor younger women officially. I almost laughed. Me, a mentor. But then I remembered all the times I wished somebody older had sat me down and told me the truth without sugarcoating it. So I said yes. I told them about love that leaves, money that disappears, kids that test you, and faith that gets shaky. I told them you don't always bounce back, you rebuild, brick by brick, and sometimes with different dreams than you started with. Keisha came home one weekend and sat across from me at the kitchen table, just like old times. She said, "Mama, I'm scared sometimes." I reached for her hand and said, "Good, that means you care. Courage ain't the absence of fear. It's moving forward with it." Darnell hired his first employee. Seeing him teach another young man how to work honest made me proud in a quiet way. That's legacy. Not money, not fame, just passing on decency. James's health stayed stable, but we both knew life don't promise forever. So we made moments count. Walks, talks, simple meals. We didn't waste time arguing over small stuff. When you've lost enough, you stop fighting unnecessary battles. Some nights, I sit alone and think about the girl I used to be, the one chasing love, approval, and certainty. I wish I could hug her and say, "You gonna be okay." Not perfect, but okay. Now I tell my story not to sound strong, but to sound honest. Strength comes and goes, honesty stays. So if you're listening to Aunt Mary right now, know this. Your life don't have to look impressive to be meaningful. Your journey don't have to be loud to be powerful. And your heart don't have to be untouched to still love deeply. As long as you still waking up, there's purpose waiting on you. And my story? It keeps flowing, slow, steady, and full of grat at this stage of my life. I don't chase moments anymore. I notice them. That's the biggest difference between who I was and who I am now. Back then, I was always looking ahead, trying to survive the next problem. Now I sit still long enough to feel what's already here. James and I started a little routine. Every Sunday afternoon, we cooked together. Nothing fancy. Greens, cornbread, baked chicken, sometimes just soup if we felt tired. We played old music and let memories float around the room. Music has a way of bringing back people you loved and lessons you learned. Some songs made us smile. Some made us quiet. Both were welcome. One Sunday, James looked at me and said, "You know, Mary, you changed how I see life." I shook my head and said, "No, you just slowed down enough to see. That's what love does. It don't add pressure, it removes it." The community center celebrated its anniversary and asked me to speak again. This time, the room was full. Young folks, elders, mothers, fathers. I stood there and realized how many different lives were sitting in front of me, all carrying something heavy. I told them what I've learned the hard way. Life will break you open, but what spills out is up to you. After that talk, an elderly woman hugged me and said, "I thought my life was already over." I told her, "As long as you breathing, God ain't done." She smiled like someone just handed her permission to hope again. Keisha came home for the holidays, and we stayed up late talking like friends. She told me she wanted to write a book one day. Not fiction, real stories. Stories like mine. I told her to write the truth even when it shakes people. Especially then. Truth heals in ways silence never can. Darnell invited me to his shop's opening celebration. Bigger space, more tools, more work. He pulled me aside and said, "Everything I know about not quitting, I learned from watching you." I hugged him tight. As a parent, that's the kind of reward money can't buy. James's health reminded us again that time is precious. A short hospital stay, nothing dramatic, but enough to shake us. I sat by his bed and realized love don't always look like romance. Sometimes it looks like being present when things get quiet and scary. He squeezed my hand and said, "Thank you for choosing me." I told him, "I still do." Now when I sit alone at night, I don't feel empty. I feel full of memories, lessons, and peace. I made mistakes. I stayed too long in places I should have left earlier. I doubted myself more than I should have. But I also loved deeply, raised strong kids, and stayed soft in a hard world. So if you listening to Aunt Mary and wondering if your best days are behind you, baby, don't count yourself out. Life don't follow a straight line. Sometimes the later chapters hold the most meaning. And as I close this part of my story, I want you to remember this. You don't need to be perfect to be proud of your life. You just need to be honest about it. Because in the end, peace is the real success. Now, as I sit in my favorite chair, cup of tea in hand, watching the sunset, I can finally say it. Life is messy, beautiful, painful, and full of surprises. And every single moment, even the ones that broke me, taught me something real. I look back on that young girl who grew up in a small house with thin walls and loud fights. I think about the scared 20-year-old who married Robert, thinking love would fix everything. I remember the exhausted single mother who worked herself to the bone, barely keeping the house and kids together. And I remember the Aunt Mary who stood here today, soft but strong, quiet but seen, still learning, still loving. I raised two incredible children. Darnell, who turned into a man of honesty, hard work, and heart. Keisha, who became a woman unafraid to speak her truth and chase her dreams. Both of them taught me just as much as I taught them. That's the beauty of family. The lessons flow both ways. And then there's James, patient, gentle, steady. The kind of love that doesn't steal your identity but adds to it. I didn't know I'd ever get a second chance at that kind of companionship. But here we are. Love comes when it's ready, and sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's late, and sometimes it's exactly what you need. I've learned that life doesn't always give you closure in neat little boxes. Some doors close forever, some stay cracked just enough for healing. Pain doesn't last forever, but lessons do. Loss teaches resilience. Heartbreak teaches self-worth. Hardship teaches perspective. And surviving teaches gratitude. If I could tell the girl I once was one thing, it would be this: don't be afraid of falling apart. Don't rush through grief. Don't let anyone tell you that your story ain't worth telling. The bumps, the tears, the fights, the heartbreaks. They all make you strong in ways nobody can take away. And if you're listening to Aunt Mary right now, remember this too. It ain't about having a perfect life. It's about living your life fully, honestly, and with your heart open, even after it's been bruised. Keep showing up. Keep forgiving. Keep loving. And above all, keep believing that even after the storm, the sun will rise again. Life is long, but it's yours. Own it, cherish it, tell your story. And never ever give up on yourself. Because baby, if I can make it through all the chaos, the heartbreak, the sleepless nights, the doubts, and the setbacks, so can you. And that, my friends, is the story of Aunt Mary.